Like a bracket punishment.
Yeah. I was like,
we did the Crimson Cruises all the time.
well, yeah, but this was a different one. This was some sort of cruise, something. I don't know. I mean,
Did you ever go on the Crimson Cruise?
I did not.
Because I remember
did
when
not.
Baumhauer was a big part of that, and he wanted us to do our show on the boat.
Yeah,
and I'm
we
like,
couldn't
I think
figure out
we're
how
gonna have
to
a
do that.
technical problem there.
yeah, Bob, that's a great idea in principle.
Yeah, I couldn't do that, Bob. Yeah.
You know what they don't have streamed through the ocean's phone lines?
Yeah, I can't even get
Yes.
ESPN on that cruise ship usually.
The illusion was you guys were walking on golden carpets up there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we had to pay for those carpets somehow
Yeah,
there,
I guess
Milton.
so.
That was the illusion when we were in radio.
That
up
was
there?
the illusion, yeah.
But probably because it was true. Thanks
Hey,
to
you
this guy.
You
Thanks
never
to
knew
Lance.
the story. I actually spoke at Melton's, one of his broadcasting classes at UAB.
Did you really?
How was
That's
Lance?
correct. Well,
Welcome in to the Pennant Grace. My name is Emily Grace McWhorter. This is Ush This. And we have a fun show today for you guys because we had a very fun game that the Braves played last night, and we're going to talk all about it. Ush, first things first, though.
Yes.
I'm wearing some Roback.
Look at that. This is a great example to show you all the diversity of the Roback catalog. So it's not just the polos, it's not just the hoodies, it's not just the quarter zips. They got you covered there. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
so
styling and profiling.
It's a quarter zip with a hood and cropped.
Yes.
You can't really get much better than that.
And if your hands get cold, and trust me,
Mine do.
everything about, it's ice running through those veins, she can tuck those hands in that front pocket
Yeah.
there too. Stay warm.
So true.
That's roback.com. And on your first order, enter code PG20. It's going to save you 20% off of your entire order. Roback.com, code PG20.
It's also my dad's birthday today.
Mark Todd, happy birthday, my friend.
May 6th.
Mark got an early birthday present last night as he was in attendance.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Him and my mom behind home plate.
Yeah, at Truist to witness a gem of a game.
Yeah.
From A.J. Smith-Shawver, and I think all of Braves country is ecstatic anytime you see someone perform at this level, but to see a guy who has so much promise, who is so young, and we're not really sure where he stands, but I think we're getting a pretty good idea here. I think A.J. Smith-Shawver is 23.
Yeah.
Still really young guy, and he's been up, he's been down. Was up briefly, back down, and now is back in, and I think he's going to stay. We're going to talk more about the rotation later, but what an absolute incredible night for A.J. Smith-Shawver, who goes, they're saying, into the eighth inning for the first time in his life.
Whole life, never been to the 8th inning.
So A.J. Smith-Shawver did not start pitching again at his senior year of high school. I know he's not pitched into 8th inning in the majors or in the minor leagues, so at least in his professional career. He goes 8 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 4 walks. 2 of those walks were in the first inning.
Right.
And so after that, he really settled in, and I think there was maybe 2 in the 4th as well. So outstanding performance from him. It has to be a massive confidence builder for him. Also, Alex Verdugo, our leadoff man, 2 for 3 with, listen to this line. This is a great line and would have probably gotten more attention had it not been for Smith-Shawver. 2 for 3 with 2 doubles, a walk, an RBI, scored a run, and had a stolen base. That is a good night's work.
It's incredible, and I feel like you said it best. That's being overshadowed by A.J. Smith-Shawver, and I want to stay on Smith-Shawver for just a few more moments. That was only his 11th Major League start.
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
Yeah.
This was the Braves' top prospect, and there were some questions surrounding him coming into, his own in the majors, coming to the show. He has really impressed me. Now, it'd be hard, obviously, not to impress us with last night's performance, but going back, this is a second consecutive start for him that I really like.
Yeah, and I retweeted this article from Mark Bowman about teammates talking about this guy's attitude when he's been sent down and then when he comes back up, and how impressed they've been. So the teammates were obviously very, very happy for him, very supportive of him, but says something about probably a guy that's mature beyond his years.
Yeah.
I feel like this is part of a new, I don't know, but that's probably a bad way to put it, a new thing. I feel like this is part of the team's success where you have guys that have come in. We've talked extensively about Nick Allen. We've talked extensively about Eli White, Alex Verdugo, but also A.J. Smith-Shawver, who have come in that from the outside looking in, the chemistry seems to be strong.
Yeah.
These guys seem to be fitting in, seem to be good teammates, everyone pulling for each other.
Right. And that's been something that we've always talked about with Alex Anthopoulos, that seems to be a great value to him when they are bringing these guys, that the clubhouse interaction and how they hold themselves and their character has always been definitely a priority. But I think now, we were joking Sunday night, we watched the last Dodgers series game with a few Braves fans, Spud and Hunter Bussey. It was a great time.
Yep.
And we're planning a bigger function here sooner than later.
Yeah,
so
that watch party's still coming, and we're talking with our friends at Lags Eatery, and we'll have information on that soon, I promise.
We will. But what we were talking about is when you look at this Braves lineup, if you were to have gone through this list of names in January, you would have thought this is a Gwinnett roster.
Yeah, that's what Spud said.
Yeah.
And he's right. But talk about strength in that when you have good at bats late in the lineup.
Yes.
That is key to success.
Yeah.
Nick Allen also, first off, 2 fantastic defensive plays from him last night.
Again, something that, dare I say, is being overshadowed by Smith-Shawver.
So you saw that on the field from him last night in his defense. Offensively, how is he doing? 271 with a 637 OPS. He's got 7 RBIs and 5 steals. He's speedy.
He is
and you're
speedy.
like, okay, those are solid numbers, but they're not blowing me away. He's in the 9 spot. Okay?
Let that sink in.
Last hitter in the lineup. If your 9-spot hitter is batting 271, is driving runs in and stealing bases, getting on base.
There's nothing more you can ask for.
There's nothing more that you can ask for. That's fantastic. And where does the roster flip into that? Then you go back to spot 1, and that's the other newcomer, Alex Verdugo. We're going to talk more about him when we talk about our outfield and how that's going to look. Ronald Acuna Jr. returning, things of that nature. Also, Matt Olson with a home run last night. Good to see as well. Your parents there in attendance.
Yep.
My buddy Ben Longmire there in attendance with his son Wyatt. Great to see. Just a tremendous win against. You're like, oh well, it's just the Reds. So the Reds now are at 500 after last night's loss. Actually lost 3 in a row. They're 18-18. They're in second place behind the Cubs in the Central. Braves now at 16-18. They are in third place still, 6 games back of the Mets, and have now won 2 games in a row, 6-4 out of their last 10.
It's not bad, and I'm happy with that. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on, building momentum. Robert in the chat says late joining today, but let's start building momentum.
Yeah.
I do feel like the ending of this Dodgers series coming into the Reds, this is a very good spot to start stacking games.
Needed that win.
Needed that win.
The Dodgers have never swept the Braves in the season series in history.
1863,
Yeah,
right?
these teams have been playing.
Or 93.
I think it's 1893.
93.
These teams have been playing
Let me pull it up.
a very, very long time, and they have never swept the
here it
Braves
is.
in the season series. And this was This was it. Noted baseball expert Ryan Allen Brown said, someone said this is the last time they play this season. That can't be right. And I said, yeah, it's right. Goes back to our discussion of interleague play and why I don't really love it. I'd rather play teams like the Dodgers more.
Okay, wait, here's the stat. In a head-to-head history that dates back to 1890, the Braves have never been swept in a season series by the Dodgers. They need a win tonight to avoid that fate. That happened. In this 135-year-old rivalry, Atlanta owns the only season series sweep. The 1994 Braves went 6-0 against Los Angeles.
There you go.
Interesting. That's one of those stats that I feel like until you think about it, you're like, there's no way that's true.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Right.
I'm happy it still reigns true after Sunday night. But we're going to talk to you about looking ahead, and Thursday's show is going to be a little different. We'll explain that. But I just think that this is a spot where the Braves are more in control of their own destiny than they have been all season.
I agree. And this is a 4-game series. Keep that in mind. Another point about Olson's home run, and Krusty in the chat with a great point. That's a painful looking home run, and it was. Felt awful for that young outfielder for the Cincinnati Reds. That was an ugly replay, which credit to the FanDuel team. They did not do the multiple
Angles and
the
slow-mo.
They did it once, and
That was enough.
yeah, Brandon Gaughan was like, okay, that's all you'll see of that,
So,
because it was pretty gnarly.
I do have an update on that. That was Tyler Callahan. He actually just made his MLB debut
I was gonna
last
say,
week.
yes, it was. He hasn't
Yeah.
even been playing for a week.
No. So it is a broken left forearm. So, we will keep our thoughts and prayers with Tyler as he navigates that, because you never want to see that happen. Have you been seeing some of the discussion taking place on social media about Olsen continuing to run the bases? Have you seen any of this?
No.
I think I know your stance on this. So and I don't even want to call it like criticism that they're facing, but there's been a lot of people on Twitter, X, saying that in a situation like that, Matt should not have come home.
Oh, no. That's incorrect.
I am a
No.
firm believer that you play to win the game.
He wasn't, out there Happy Gilmore style doing the bull dance. He just, trotted around.
Right.
There was nothing about it that was
It-
disrespectful or
yes,
anything. No,
yes.
you have to do that. Play hasn't been called.
Exactly.
And so what you do in that situation is you run the bases.
You run the bases.
And they did review it and
Exactly.
upheld it. Had they overthrown it, you go back.
It's insurance.
No problem.
It's insurance at that point. But curious in the chat what you guys think about it. I feel like the Pennant Grace family will all, come to the same conclusion on it.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting that I saw a lot of individuals saying, kind of criticizing, facing some backlash that Matt should have held up. But again, you play to win. And I don't know. I
Yeah.
just think that was a little bit ridiculous to bring that up, considering the circumstances.
right.
But again, painful home run in the park. Definitely emphasis on the word painful.
So as we said, 4-game series against Cincinnati, all 6:15 start times. Tonight, game 2, Andrew Abbott brings a 2-0 record and a 2.84 ERA to take on Chris Sale, who is 1-3 with a 4.84. Game 3 will be Hunter Green, who is 4-2 with a 2.53, taking on Grant Holmes. He's 2-2 with a 4.24 ERA. And then finally, Game 4, Nick Lodolo, who is 3-3 with a 3.27, taking on Spencer Schwellenbach at 1-3 with a 3.92 ERA. If you notice something about those Cincinnati pitchers, you will notice I did not have any bad ERAs there. That staff is doing pretty well in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a competitive series, and I think that's why I'm putting so much emphasis that it does look like the Braves are in control, and it was crucial to get that win on Sunday to put them in this position. But going forward, I'm really curious about Chris Sale.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a game that I want to see him return to old form.
So we saw him his last start
Yep.
going to the 7th.
Yes, longest.
So if you could have that without the velocity issues, I'd say you'd be pretty satisfied.
Yeah, I'd be content with that totally. And then going forward, when you look at this series with the Reds, for you, what is a marker of success?
3-1, but I'm
Okay.
not known for being a selfish person, nor am I just the most competitive in the world. I've heard stories from the Primetime Poker Club that you're pretty competitive.
Yeah, I mean,
Usually in these situations, I'm like, EG, what would make you happy? And you're like, sweep.
Yeah, a sweep is definitely. Tim Melton is behind the glass for us.
You've heard EG's nickname at the poker club, right?
Yeah, but if you could tell this to our Pennant Grace audience, I'd appreciate that.
So she has been labeled. First of all, in the Primetime Poker Club, you don't get to choose your name.
No.
Right. It's chosen for you.
It is given to you, which is why they call me the king. And EG is known as Black Widow.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
It's because she sends men to an early grave there at the Primetime Poker Club.
Deadly.
Yeah,
It's deadly.
Deadly.
I feel like I can announce the Pennant Grace family. I'm taking my talents to Biloxi.
Yes.
That is at the end of the month. I'm really excited about it. Tim is laughing. He's like my coach, my poker coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was her best season ever. I mean, the growth from year to year, it's really like reverse Atlanta Braves, right?
Right.
It's like, really, really, really has shown a lot of strength over the past year and growth.
There
So
we go.
it's going to be a cash game, by the way. Cash game, I think I've decided on. But tournament is much more my style. We need to chat about this,
do.
and we will. But if you're in Biloxi, end of May, let me know.
Tune in to the Disrupt Media's new show, Card Sharks, with Tim Melton and Emily Grace McWhorter.
could
Where
get
they'll
it-
go through this in detail. I feel
That
like
actually
that's.
makes a lot
I
of
just
sense.
threw
It really
something
does.
out there for you guys. Back to the Atlanta Braves.
Yes, of course.
sorry to
No.
bring it back here. We had some news about Ronald Acuna
Yes,
Jr.
let's
this week.
let's chat about that. So there were some conflicting reports on what the status of Acuna would be, considering he has not hit a rehab assignment yet, and there was some discussion that he'd have to go back to LA to his doctors there, check out his knee. So the latest update as of today, this is May 6th when we are filming this, he does not need a trip to LA. It is up to him and the Braves to determine when he will start a rehab assignment. He is progressing. However, there is no exact date to return.
So what I think is all along we've heard him actually being in the lineup is late May. I'm sticking with that. I think he'll have a brief stay in the minors, and I think that we will have him in a Braves uniform before the end of this month.
Did I say this on air to you or off air that I think it's going to be early June?
I believe you may have said that on air.
Okay, I'm holding to that.
Okay.
I feel like it's May 6th. Let's just say we're through week 1 of May. That gives 3 weeks. Not having an exact date to me means that we're going to see early June.
Okay.
But I'm hoping not. However, I do feel okay considering where the lineup and outfield is to potentially push that for the health of Acuna and where, the momentum and the production is right now.
So I say late May. She says early June. We'll see who has the cards in that.
Nice.
I may be holding King 7. Is that a good hand?
Every time you get away from the poker talk, you bring us right back
Pull you right back in. Sorry, I only play Skip-Bo. I don't know a lot of poker terms. So yeah, it creates a great, I say problem, the kind of problem that you want to have.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what you wouldn't want to have is to say, thank goodness he's back and we can ditch this outfielder who is struggling. They do not have that, which is very good for the team, has been crucial to the team's success over recent weeks. And Ronald Acuna Jr. is not going to come in and immediately day one be MVP Ronald Acuna Jr.
It's going to take him a second. And I think we all need to kind of process that a little bit, that there's going to be a little bit of rust to shake off.
So you have a good defensive outfield right now. Here's looking at the guys that are getting the primary starts in the outfield from an offensive standpoint. Eli White's batting .305. He has a .908 OPS. Alex Verdugo's batting .322. He has an a .826 OPS. So you have also obviously you have Michael Harris II. Mm-hmm. His offensive numbers are not as good as those two, but he's the safest of the three. He's your center fielder. I don't see that changing. Eli and Alex are swinging a hot bat. They've been great in the field. What does it look like when he returns? And I'm going to throw this scenario out too.
Let's talk through all of them. I like this. I like these conversations.
Pennant Grace, Phillies correspondent, friend of the show, Travis Millsaps. Going back to our discussion last week about Marcell Ozuna.
Yes. Wait, which conversation?
Would the Braves trade Marcell?
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Sage wisdom from Trav, who says, I could absolutely see it happening because I believe that you're going to see this, especially those first month or so, Acuna getting some DH opportunities where he's not going to be playing right every game.
Okay.
And they'll have him some opportunities to DH. That could continue even past that initial stage where he plays in right and also DHs, at which point Marcell is not needed as much. I'm talking about in this scenario, not saying I agree with this. Marcell is not needed as much. He is a extremely high-valued trade piece. And Travis admitted, too, this all depends on teams with the right arms wanting to make a deal.
Yes, that's a great point. And that's an interesting scenario because there was a lot of discussion, if you guys have kept up with the Braves for a while, about, after Acuna's first injury. I'm curious if anyone else remembers this. There was this whole, slew of conversations happening on Twitter, on X, that Acuna could eventually just be a DH. And it was blasphemous at the time.
Yes.
I don't think that Acuna is to that point, but it's interesting that you bring that up because I do see a world in which that kind of makes sense.
Yes.
I don't love it. I don't like the idea of Marcell not being in a Braves uniform, and I think the biggest key there is will all the pieces fall into place to, bolster the bullpen, starting pitching, what have you, for the price of Marcel.
Yeah, and that's probably a little bit of me thinking with my heart, not my brain. Never done that, Tim. Old heart getting in the way.
Sometimes you go full Wizard of Oz Scarecrow, and that's what you're doing.
That's if I only had one, and so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of based on maybe what they do, but also too, we don't know if Alex Verdugo and Eli White, who are especially in the case of Eli White, doing something he's never done before in his career, how much that's going to hold up. Smuff makes a good point. Acuna's future probably eventually lies in left field rather than right, and I could also see that happening for sure. So I don't know what that's going to turn out to look like, but I want to reiterate, I'm glad it's not a position of
Thank
X
goodness.
is struggling.
Yes.
Thank goodness Acuna could come back, and now there's all this pressure on him.
Right.
And we're in the basement. We got to get, Ronnie, you got to immediately get us out.
And I love that point because I feel like we're not talking about it enough either. And I love that because you're right. You hit the nail on the head. There's no pressure on Acuna to be MVP Acuna right out the gate. He is allowed a little bit of a cushion to adjust back into things. And that really is a testament to what these guys are doing when in his absence.
Yeah.
And this is a good problem to have. I feel like the Braves have not had a lot of good problems to have in a while, but this is one of them. And it's going to be interesting how management moves these players and kind of it's a good puzzle piece, good puzzle that'll make a pretty picture in the end. But I would not want to be in their position right now.
It is a puzzle. That's a good way to put it. And, part of the thing with Marcel, too, remembering the horrible slump he was in at one point, since that time, he's the most consistently good hitter on the team. He's a professional hitter, man. Watching the guy in the box, it's really a thing of beauty to watch.
He's so fun to watch.
Good at drawing walks, just good at bats all around. And you just hate to see him go. I don't know how that's going to turn out, but I like that the Braves are in a position of strength with it to welcome Ronald Acuna Jr. back, who is the most high-profile player on the team without question.
Agreed.
One of the most high-profile players in all of Major League Baseball. All of a sudden, another position of strength. And talking about Acuna and talking about Marcel specifically on for arms. Let's talk arms. Let's talk rotation.
Okay.
Here's what we have currently. I'm just going to give ERAs on these. I know there's a lot of other important stats. I'm going to give ERAs. Bryce Elder, who pitched very well in Game 3 against the Dodgers, is at 5.06 ERA. Grant Holmes is at 4.24. Chris Sale, 4.84. Spencer Schwellenbach at 3.92. And now A.J. Smith-Shawver at 3 even. That's a good lineup. Spencer Strider, we just heard yesterday, is long toss. He's still not throwing off the mound, but I expect that's coming here pretty soon. I do not expect from this one we see too much in the way of him and Gwinnett. I think a start. You think he does more than one?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it'd be realistic. And I think that he's in a position right now where he could acclimate right back into things.
At the very most two, but
yes,
I think we think it
under
would be
3,
one.
for
So
sure.
he's back, and I don't really know what you do in the sense of that. Now, keep in mind, Grant Holmes has primarily been a reliever, but Grant Holmes has pitched well as a starter. These guys are really making it, again, perfect scenario for Braves fans. These guys are making it hard for Brian Snicker and company to make the decision on what that rotation looks like. That's what you want to have. You want to have a position of strength there.
Yeah. Robert says a rotation that was doom and gloom has suddenly shown some life. It's
Robert is
so
100% right.
The month of May so far, and really, April 18th until now, the Braves have been on fire.
Well, we talked last week about, how concerned we were about the bullpen and how well they've played. We saw Raciel Iglesias, back to form, last couple of times out. So, it's really hard to know what your team is pre-Independence Day.
Oh, pre-Independence Day.
Yeah, you know who your team is primarily after the 4th of July, in my opinion. And all that time, you're like, well, golly, the season starts in late March. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's a 162-game season.
True.
I think usually by then you know, and with the comings and goings due to injury and stuff, that affects it as well. But, it's a much better place than we were when the season started, and I'm just really happy about how impactful some of these guys who are either new to the team or just new to the lineup have been. That includes A.J. Smith-Shawver. That includes Nick Allen. That includes Eli White. And that includes Alex Verdugo.
Yeah, I think, Alex Anthopoulos has received a lot of criticism the last couple of months. But one thing that I feel like we have to commend him and give him flowers for is that he is able to find these guys that can really, make an impact. I hesitate to say immediate impact. And there's been some swings and misses. Jared Kelenic experience, that was one of them. Eddie Rosario has been, ups and downs. But it feels like every season you can point back at a few guys that kind of came on in a unique way that really became household names for Braves country.
Yes. Speaking of another household name, I have one quick walk-on topic, if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Austin Riley is one of the biggest names on the Braves roster. He is Hunter Bussey's favorite player. Brady Penn on X, who is at Brady Penn 21. Austin Riley's the best third baseman in the National League, and he has been for years, was his initial tweet.
Yeah.
This is his follow-up. I am legitimately stunned, and I retweeted this. Follow me at @ush_sisk. I'm legitimately stunned at the brushback on this take. So I made a visual to reinforce the point. He lists all of these things. Average OPS, home run, OPS plus, F-WAR, B-WAR, OBP, hits, WRC plus, RBI, slugging, WOBA. I don't know what all of those mean, but I know what most of them mean. He is not number one in RBIs or OBP. That's it.
That's it?
Everything else, Austin Riley is number one. And this is from 2021.
Until now?
Until now.
Wow. Okay, why do you think that? I'm curious what your perspective is on this. Obviously, you've had some time to marinate on it. Why do you think that is? That he is not?
Because I don't think, although he has had some slumps, I don't think the lows have been as low as probably we thought they were. And I think he's been a little bit more consistent than we realized that he has been.
Yeah.
I remember how when Austin Riley first joined the team, he was absolutely unstoppable. He had this incredible start. And then, teams had seen him, and then,
kind of fell back to earth a little
it went
bit.
way back down.
Yeah.
Way back down. But he got himself back up into that. And although there's been a few setbacks here and there, and he's had injuries, obviously, speaking mostly of last year, consistently, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
And he's built quite a career in that time. He's never going to go down, unfortunately, and I'm a huge Austin Riley fan, as the best third baseman in Braves history because, Larry's kind of got
Larry
that
does have
on
it.
up. But I think he has a very legitimate chance to go down as one of the best Atlanta Braves of all time. And I think he can be a Hall of Famer. I really do.
I mean, it's an interesting conversation now to start thinking about, now that I have those stats, to kind of think back on Austin Riley's career, because I agree that his lows, when you actually look at them, probably are not as bad as we made them out to be.
And I want to address Smuff's comment because it's a very astute one. In terms of defensive metrics, people ding him for his ratings as a third baseman, which is true. He doesn't have great range, etc. That is true as far as what some metrics show. I don't know anyone who has watched a lot of Austin Riley at third base that doesn't think he's not a great third baseman.
Agreed. I think he's very, very consistent, and it's
Smuff's right. I mean, as far as what numbers say there, but looking at it, he sure looks the part to me.
He's so solid, and one thing the Braves also don't get enough credit for is overall. I mean, let's just keep it to the infield. The defensive ability of that infield is really incredible. I mean, it is rare that you're seeing errors.
Well, Nick Allen, your new shortstop, hasn't had any.
Right, and
that's a critical part of that. Of that infield, obviously. So good defense, which, as you and I talked about, you usually only talk about defense when it's poor and you take for granted consistently good defense. The Braves have had that this year. And now that we're seeing what our starting rotation is doing, our bullpen is doing, and obviously what we're doing offensively. Yeah. So it's all coming together in a nice
little bow.
Nice little package there.
I like that.
Yeah.
So going forward, the Braves do not have an off day for a little while. So our plan is to give you guys on Thursday kind of an overview of May, if you will. And we're going to go series by series, kind of unpack a few things. And I'm excited. I think that there's a lot to this month. I have very high expectations for the Braves. I feel like I said earlier, that the Braves are in the driver's seat again. How many games back did you say they were? 6?
Yes, 6 games
Six
back.
games back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunity for movement here over the course of the next 3 weeks. We will have that all for you on Thursday at 12:15. Ush, where do they need to go? They need to be a little more fashionable. They need some summer attire. They need some summer apparel.
You are not going to find anything better than the brand for those who crave activity, and that is Roback.com. Go to Roback.com, fill your cart, and on that first order, enter code PG20. It's going to save you 20% off of your entire order. Roback.com, code PG20.
Make sure you're following us at the Pennant Grace on social media to keep up with all of our antics, all of our tweets.
Antics. I had a little post game
Yeah.
on the porch.
It was so good.
Hank asleep next to me.
Great
That's the
vibes.
new puppy, by the way.
Wait, have we announced that?
That we have not.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe Thursday we'll have some pics.
Yes, let's do that.
Some doggy pics.
Yeah, we'll show you guys on Thursday.
So as Hank
the
snores,
Tank.
I go live on the Screened In porch and a little post game. So
Yeah.
that's available on our X/Twitter account at the Pennant Grace. If you're watching us on YouTube, or if you're watching us on Twitter at MEG Sports.
Yes.
But they can also find us on podcast.
Yes. Podcast is the latest and greatest for us. If you would like to leave us a review or a star rating, that helps us out tremendously. Make sure you're downloading episodes so you don't miss when we drop them Tuesdays, Thursdays at 12:15. They're very easy to binge, so I've heard. If you want to listen to our voices for an
Yes.
extended amount of time.
Soothing.
Yes.
I
very.
hear the sound of our voices
we
can be very soothing.
could do books, maybe.
Maybe.
Put people to sleep.
Let's get Card Sharks off the table first.
And then we'll do
And then
Audible.
we'll go into audiobooks.
Okay, that is going to do it for us on the Pennant Grace. We will see you back again Thursday at 12:15.
The reason he was hired at Auburn was his success